Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Go Ballistic here on the Scottish Sunsport YouTube channel, where there were big wins for Celtic and Rangers this weekend, and Hearts dropping points the second time in 3 games. As our title challenging wobbling a little bit already. We'll get on to all of that as ever shortly. Roger Hanna is here as always, our head of sport here, and joining us live from Ayrshire is none other than Kris Boyd. Boydie, back in your home this week. Didn't fancy a wee jaunt up to the office?
No, I'm a busy man today. Busy man. My big ginger friend Craig Sampson wanted to take me onto the golf course to try and win his title back after I beat him the last time. So I will get this done, and then I'm going for a round of golf. How does that sound?
Well, keep us posted. Update us later with the score.
I will.
Sammy's had a good weekend so far.
I'm saying I will. If I win, I'll come back on. If I don't, I'm going into hiding. Anyway, let's go on to the big topics of the weekend.
You got Craig Sampson's number, get him on next week.
We could get him on,
I think that sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll see if it comes to that or not. Let's start then with what went on at Celtic Park yesterday. A 4-0 win for Celtic over Kilmarnock. Martin O'Neill, of course, in interim charge once again. With Hearts dropping points, that's a gap to 7 points. Celtic with a game in hand. Boyd, I'll come to you first on this. Couple of league wins for Martin O'Neill. That win over Rangers after extra time at Hampden last week. Is there a wee bit of momentum about Celtic again at the moment, at least on the domestic front?
Well, I think the games, you obviously Falkirk and Kilmarnock, you'd expect Celtic to win and win comfortably. They've done that, and the Rangers one would have been one that Martin would have been able to understand where the group is at, basically. They went into it, and you would have said they were favourites, yes. Got off to a fantastic start. Second half, Rangers kind of rallied and asked questions of them. And then, the longer the game went on, any extra time, there was only going to be one winner with the 10 men out there. So, and then fast forward to Europe, that would have been the one where Martin probably thought to himself, whoa, this group is miles off where it needs to be. The performance against Michelin on Thursday was not good. Let's not get away from it. But the most important thing for Martin O'Neill and Celtic was to bounce back with 3 points on Sunday. That's exactly what they done. Roger, you were at the game. You covered it. I mean, 4-0 could have been more. Kilmarnock, we'll touch on that as well because I'm
not sure it could have been 4. I think 4 would slightly flatter Celtic. They were far a better team. 2 or 3. We might have scored the third 5 minutes from the end. I thought that would probably have fair. A wee bit of gloss for the penalty from Arne Engels after Yang was pulled back. I spoke to Martin O'Neill, Jonathon, after the game.
Arne Engels. He loves a penalty. Engels, doesn't he?
Can I just say, if that's the part, I'm glad I'm not walking on a golf course with you for 3 hours.
Loves a penalty, that man.
I spoke to Martin after. I am no closer to knowing whether he's staying or going. He's way back to London. He's going back on Thursday. He's expecting some type of clarification from the Celtic board, and I don't know what will happen. Every time you look at the bookies' odds for this job, somebody else is top. I think it's Wilfred Nancy of Columbus Crew this morning, from Kieto Knudsen, from Kieran McKenna, from Martin O'Neill himself, so we don't know what's going on. I think if they offered Martin to stay to the Cup final, I think he probably would. I think if they offered him to stay into the new year, I think he probably would. Whether he would stay to the end of the season, I'm not so sure. He's not going to be permanent manager of Celtic.
Roger, do you think because it's Martin O'Neill, the Celtic board are getting away with it right now? Obviously, the fans would be asking questions of them. Are they happy to ask questions? But because they're into the territory now of you look at how long it took Rangers to appoint a permanent manager. You look at Celtic right now as well, because it's Martin O'Neill. The Celtic fans have had their moment of seeing one of their heroes back in the dugout. They're winning games of football. There's not really many questions been asked about. But if it wasn't for Martin O'Neill, there would be serious questions asked to the Celtic board and their
100% Boyd. And I think it was a really clever move to bring someone of his high profile back in the short term, because it fills the void. People are talking about Martin O'Neill, or talking to Martin O'Neill, or getting all the old stories about Martin O'Neill. Your mate Chris Sutton's in the telly talking about Martin O'Neill.
He ain't my mate.
All the focus is on Martin. Rightly so. He's had 3 domestic wins, including an Old Firm semi-final win at Hampden, and it's allowing the board to work away quietly. When it was Rangers had Stevie Smith in charge. No disrespect to Stevie Smith. He doesn't have the profile, he doesn't have the backstory of Martin O'Neill, so the focus was heavily on the Rangers board. Now, Michael Nicholson and Paul Tisdale can work away quietly to try and get a manager, and they know they've got a guy in temporary charge who can steer the ship.
Yeah.
You mentioned Chris Sutton there, Roger. He's been talking a couple of times now about how he wouldn't want to see Martin O'Neill stay in the job longer term, but all of this, potentially damaging his legacy if things don't go well. Do you think that will come into Martin O'Neill's thinking himself if he was to be offered it in extra term?
He's already said he won't. I mean, the longest term he could possibly get would be the end of the season, John. Depends who Celtic want. If Celtic have their heart set on, for argument's sake, Roberto Martinez or Craig Bellamy, who they couldn't get until after the World Cup final, then you could see Martin going to the end of the season really at a push. It's a demanding.
Do you think that's an option, Roger? Do you think that's an option? Do you think that's an option to wait to the end of the season?
I don't know. What I was going to say was it's a really demanding job. You go Thursday, Sunday. We're getting into those festive fixtures when there's a game every 3 days domestically. Boy, the Scottish Cups to come up. They've got a League Cup final. It's a really heavy schedule for Celtic. It's a lot to ask for anyone. It's certainly a lot to ask for a man of 73. So if he was going to stay to the end of the season, I think you would probably see Sean Maloney, Stephen McManus, Mark Fotheringham in a sort of higher profile role, doing a lot of the work, and Martin sort of dropping in and out.
Yeah, I totally agree with that side, but I feel as if the Celtic board you could be right with because the way I look, I think if we go back to a few weeks ago, I think we all knew that Brendan Rodgers was going to leave. I mean, it was the timing of it that has probably kind of spooked Celtic a little bit. Once he offered his resignation, then Celtic decided, right, enough's enough, bye. There is no doubt that the contract was never going to be renewed in the summer. So Celtic had obviously, let's be realistic, or they should have had their ducks in a row. So you'd imagine they would have probably been speaking to a few people regarding the summer. Whether that they've had to try and move that, and other people, as you say, you've got commitments. Your countries at the World Cup. You've got teams that. You look at Kieran McKenna as well. He was another one at the front run, at the front as well. As he said, well, maybe in the summer, if I don't take my Ipswich team up, then that might be something I'll look at then. But as it stands right now, I want to get myself back to the Premier League. There's a lot of permutations in there, but I just feel as if for Celtic now, the football world's changing all the time. You look at it, Martin O'Neill has bought them a lot of time.
Do you not think, Boyd, if it was Kieran McKenna, I would have been done with him? The Kieran McKenna thing's quite simple. You go to Ipswich, you ask what the release clause is, you pay the release clause, and then you pay the manager. Yeah,
100%, and I totally agree with you there. But what I'm saying is, if there's maybe been conversations with Kieran McKenna, we know how this industry works. When people say, "Oh, we've not spoken or we've not heard anything," would it be a case maybe they've spoken to his agent, listen, he wants to take them up? I don't think that looks good on Celtic if you're prepared to wait on someone if they're not going to make it to the Premier League. And listen, this might not have happened, but it looks as if Celtic have somebody in line for the summer. Because I don't think we felt as if Brendan Rodgers was going to leave when he did, or if he was going to leave, it could maybe have been February, March time when it was coming to the end, and then it would have moved on, and then it was only a couple of months where like the team that's in right now could have took Celtic to the end of the season. That's obviously it's going to be a bigger period now, and as you say, it is a lot to ask of Martin. Listen, we don't know what he's doing daily. I wouldn't imagine that he will be on the training field putting on sessions. I think the team will be doing that. Martin will be overseeing everything. But you know yourself, even press conferences every 2-3 days, the work that he has to put in every day, it's still tiring. So as you say, Roger, it is a lot to ask of anyone. You look at managers who are winning and they feel tired. But for a manager, for a man of 73-year-old to go day in, day out, it's a tough ask. Yeah. But you look at it right now, all he can do is go and win games of football. That's exactly what Celtic have been doing domestically. Europe was bad, but I think in terms of Scottish football this year, that's just the in thing right now. Every Thursday night just seems to be bad for Scottish football. But how will Kilmarnock, Roger? That's 5 defeats in a row. I thought goalkeeper Eddie Beats come in again. He's not covered himself in any glory. I know he's a young boy. Mayo's missing. the Max Stryett one for me is a huge miss for Killie. Would the Kilmarnock fans start to get worried?
No, they were better than they were. I saw them at Falkirk the previous week, Boyd. They were better at Celtic Park than they were at Falkirk.
Yeah.
It is 5 defeats in a row. I think that's the worst sequence by any team in the Premiership this season. But, you know, they're not bottom. They're not isolated. They've got 7 or 8 players out. I think Mayo could be back for the next game, which is at home to Motherwell.
They've got 2 Motherwell and Dundee United at home. They're big games now.
Yeah, he's looking at Ronnie McKenzie. Your pal been back. I think Toby Oluwayemi will be available. He wasn't yesterday because he couldn't play against Celtic. So he'll slowly get guys back. Marley Watkins came back off the bench yesterday. You know, half hour out of Tyrese John Jules. They'll get better.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Killie missing a lot of players. Celtic's injury list growing as well. I mean, since the last time we spoke here, Nasser Johnson's also going to have surgery. We know he was going to be out for months as it was anyway. Carter Vickers already out for months and months. Callum Osmond, who was just coming into a bit of form after finally getting his chance, that hamstring injury of his own on Thursday in Denmark. And then Marcelo Saracchi, who'd also been looking very impressive since arriving this summer, suffers a hamstring injury, waiting to see how long he'll be out as well. I guess a couple of points here, you know. One, how key could all those injuries be for Celtic? And two, if Saracchi ends up being out for a long term, will Kieran Tierney be able to play every game?
Well, he'll have to. I don't think there's, you know, there's not really much option.
They could move Scales to left back.
Liam Scales, yeah, they could, I suggest, but it will be worrying times. It's strange they're all hamstrings, you know, with the exception of Carter Vickers, obviously, but, you know, Johnson a hamstring, Osman a hamstring, Saracchi a hamstring. Martin Hill kind of shrugged his shoulders in disbelief last night that it was, you know, the same injury to another player. Tierney played well. That's probably as good a performance as we've seen for Tierney. Took his goal really well. Was involved, you know, in creating created a good chance for Luke McCown before half time as well. So he will need to get on with it. You know, it's difficult times on the other side. Donovan was out as well. Ralston had a very difficult week, so Jamal Simpson-Pusey got a chance at right back. I'm not sure Martin Hill was convinced he'll give him another chance at right back. So there are a lot of defensive injuries, and with these fixtures coming up, there might be a bit of shuffling going on.
Celtic closing the gap to 7 points. That was after Hearts are held to a 1-1 draw at home by Dundee United. That's the last 3 games now, and domestically they've drawn. Dundee United have won lots of goals, 3 in fact disallowed for offside. Boydie, how much concern will there be at Hearts at this point in time that their tilt towards the title might already be wobbling a little bit?
No, I mean, I don't think they've still got, you know, points clear, albeit Celtic have got that game in hand. But, you know, I think you go back a couple of weeks ago and you say that point in Paisley was a good point in the grand scheme of things and the way that the game played out. But you then look at Hibs going there on Saturday night and totally running over the top of them for large parts of that game. Fast forward to yesterday for Hearts. I mean, it was a Dundee United team that was missing a few players. But you look at United and they're a stuffy team to play against. Jim Goodwin, there's one thing about Jim Goodwin, a lot of these teams are well organised, they're hard to break down, they can frustrate you, which then leads to thinking that, you know, you need to do more to score against them. You'll commit bodies forward, and Dundee United they're good in the transition. You know, we've seen the couple of goals chopped off yesterday. Listen, they're offside, but you can see how quick they can break. They're a danger from set plays, Dundee United as well. I think Derek will be unhappy with his defending for the goal that they conceded. But overall, listen, I think when you're at the top of the table, you know, I think when we were in the Rangers dressing room and you're going for titles, you always looked at it saying, win your home games, and that can give you, you know, that safety net of dropping a point here and there, or dropping a couple of points here and there away from home, as long as you win your home games. And I think that's where Hearts are right now. They need to be winning their home games, because there's no Rangers Celtic going to win every game. No, they're not. Is it going to be a low points tally that wins the Premiership this year? I think it will be. I mean, we might look at it and say it's a good point further down the line for Hearts again. Didn't particularly play at the level that they've been at, Roger, but they've got a point. Dundee United, as I say, they're a stuffy team to play against. But for me, I just always feel as if when you're at home, you need to be winning those games.
I wasn't worried about the result. They're 7 points clear. I know Celtic have a game in hand. They're 7 points clear. They're in a great position. It might end up in a good point. I was more alarmed. Derek said, kind of said after the game, they were far too emotional. They were playing as if it was the last 5 minutes from about 20 minutes in. There was emotion through the crowd. It's the middle of November, Boyd.
Yeah. No, I think.
What are they going to be like with the post-split fixtures if they're getting emotional just now? I didn't think that was a good sign at all.
I agree with you, but I mean, I know those are the words that Derek used, but when you look at the players they've got and the team that he started with yesterday, there was a lot of players, well, front foot players. They would want to go and attack the opposition's defence. And sometimes when you get that, and you've got, when you look at Millen's been playing right wing for Hearts, he's not really an out and out. I mean, he's a fullback on the other side. You look at the team they set out with yesterday. I mean, it was the two boys, that said rave reviews, and rightly so, in the wide areas. Kibori and Shanklin through the middle as well. So it was a more attacking team that was more or less a case of we're going to take the game to Dundee United. That didn't materialise, and then I think when obviously Dundee United start to get a foothold in the game and they cause you problems, it's the opposite effect, because you're then asking players to, like the two wide boys who work their socks off anyway, but to get back and defend. But at the same time, their first thought's to get forward, and that's maybe where I need to do something at the top end of the pitch. I need to make something happen, and you feel as if, listen, everybody connected with Hearts, they're excited. They should be. As you say, they're 7 points clear. They've had a fantastic start to the season. There's nothing wrong with getting carried away right now. There's nothing wrong with it.
Unless you're Danny Rohl.
Yeah.
Unless you're Danny Rohl.
I'll touch on that later on. But it's the fans I'm talking about. I don't see the players jumping about. I don't see Derek jumping about everywhere. So, for me, I wouldn't read too much into the whole emotion side of it. I think Hearts will be okay. I think they'll be fine. Dropping a couple of points at home to Dundee United isn't the worst result in the world. We've seen Rangers do it a couple of weeks ago as well. Dundee United will take points off of teams in this league. Jim Goodwin is a good operator. He's got his teams organised. They will cause teams problems, set plays. They're in a good shape as well. So listen, it's not the end of the world for Hearts.
Might have dropped points. Of course, Hearts still unbeaten in the league this season after that as well, which is a grand scheme of things as well, and let alone 7 points clear. You mentioned Danny Rohl there. He's also unbeaten in the league as Rangers manager. That's 9 points from 9 in the league. Obviously, Europe hasn't gone quite as well. But Boydie, Danny Rohl, early days still, but he's showing he can get the bread and butter, those domestic wins over the line that Russell Martin before him certainly couldn't do. Only 1-1. He's already got 3 times as many wins as Russell Martin did. Things heading in the right direction for Rangers under Danny Rohl?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been slight improvements. I'm not getting carried away, because you look at, and even in a normal season, Rangers should be beating Kilmarnock at home. They should be going to Dundee and winning. Hibs, as I said, was the one that they got a lot of plaudits for, and rightly so, because of Hibs' start to the season, the amount of goals they scored at Easter Road, the unbeaten run they had been on at Easter Road. Rangers not having a clean sheet away from home. That's back-to-back clean sheets away from home in the league now as well. So, listen, there is signs there that there is improvement, but I'm not getting carried away, because there is a long, long way to go. Do I think this team can get to a level of challenging for the title? No, I don't. I seen even yesterday as well. I'm not quite sure what Danny Rohl was trying to do at halftime. I thought the first half was as good as Rangers have been this season. I thought Mikey Moore was excellent. Nico Raskin played really well as also. The substitutions changed the game. Listen, it wasn't a case where Dundee came out and were far, far better and asked questions of Rangers, but Rangers were so far ahead in that first half with playing football in Dundee's half. Then all of a sudden the substitutions come on and it changed the game. Rangers didn't have the same energy about them. Danny Rohl came out after the game and said he wanted to freshen it up and give the boys at half time more minutes. He had to look after his squad. There's a lot of games, but Bojan Miovski played, I think, something like 18 minutes on Thursday, 45 minutes Chermiti played 73 minutes on Thursday, then 45 yesterday. Conor Barron played the full game on Thursday, and then came on at half-time yesterday when Mo Diamandi, I think, had like 20-odd minutes or something on Thursday. So that wasn't the quite, what I thought it was. For me, looking at it, I thought Rangers were so far ahead the first half, and there's been questions asked of Asgard in terms of his goals and his assists. There's been questions asked of Chermiti, and rightly so. I felt as if yesterday he thought, here's an opportunity to go and get a goal, to go and get assists, to really kick on here. But it didn't materialise. And I know Gassama gets a goal in the dying minutes that probably took away from people asking questions about Rangers' performance in that second half, because the difference from the first to the second was alarming again.
You talk about the importance of winning home games, buddy. You'll feel better about Danny Rohl. The next two home games, I think, Livy and Falkirk at home. If they can put them away, two sides new to the league, 5 consecutive Premiership wins, that would sort of build a bit more confidence for me. I still think, the manager's quite right when he talks about baby steps. I think yesterday was just another baby step, going to Dens and win. They did get a few, Mikey Moore's performance was good. Raskin scored, might have had another one as well. Gassama took his goal well at the end. But for me, there's still a lot of question marks. And you touched on some of the names there. The centre-forward position is still an enormous question mark. The three of them there, Danilo, Majovski, Chermiti, you wonder if they'll ever score a goal again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Roger, when you touch on it, I mean, that is not on Danny Rohl. It's not.
No, absolutely not.
I look at Danilo as well. That is not on. Danilo's not on the current regime in terms of the hierarchy, but there is no doubt Chermiti is on them. There's serious questions been asked. I mean, that Bojan Miovski, if I'm him, I'm absolutely raging in that dressing room yesterday, because it wasn't the best performance, but as a goal scorer, you're looking at Chermiti. He's been given minutes. He's not taking his chance. Miovski gets 45 minutes, and I know people say, well, he had a chance to take it, but as a striker, you want to go 60, 65, 70 minutes, defences start to turn, then all of a sudden you get your chances. You then can find your rhythm. This 45 minutes here and there, 20 minutes here and there, Bojan Miovski will never get up to speed regarding that. Look, I don't know, maybe Danny Rohl doesn't fancy Bojan Miovski and he's trying to get Chermiti goals to try and kick on. I don't know, but you're right, Roger. Rangers, from where they were last year, and people were criticising Cyril Dessers, what was he the best finisher in the world? No. But I tell you what, over his period of 2 years, he had over 50 goals for Rangers. Czerny as well. Iggerman, listen, I wasn't a huge fan of Hamza Iggerman, but he could score goals.
Yeah.
That's the total opposite of what's going on right now.
Is that simply the key priority? I mean, there's clearly a lot of problems all over the pitch for Rangers, but if there was to be one glaring priority in January that Danny Rohl wants to add to that team, would it be a centre forward and one that can score goals? Is it that simple?
Listen, there's still 6 weeks to the window. Maybe somebody will kick on. Maybe Miovski will rediscover the path to goal. Danilo's been there a longer time now. You've got a bigger sample size of Danilo. I think he's scored, 3 goals in the year 2025. So it'd be a surprise if he really kicked on to any degree. Chermiti, I saw him at half-time yesterday. Boyd, he was in the show, getting asked questions by Ailey Barber. Chermiti was warming up behind him, and it was a toss of the coin which one I would have put on between Boyd and Chermiti at that stage.
Calm down, friend.
You just don't see, Danny Rohl, I think, did put him on to see if he could score a goal. He just doesn't look like scoring a goal. He's got all the attributes. He's big, he's strong, he's quite quick, he's good in the air, he's good defensively back in his own 6-yard box, getting set pieces away. He brings a value to the team. But if you wear that number 9 shirt for Rangers, as Boydie used to, there's an expectation that you'll score goals. And if you've got an £8 million price tag around your neck, there's an expectation that you'll score goals. He's been here since August. It's now the middle of November. And the only goal he scored, Eddie Beach slapped in for him. So he needs to up his game. Otherwise, in January, it is going to be a pressing matter for Danny Rohl, and especially for the man who brought Chermiti here, Kevin Thelmer.
Absolutely. Obviously, the end of the game yesterday, Danny Rohl, the fans were chanting his name all afternoon, relentlessly. And he went over to see them at the end of the game, and a wee bit of a celebration with them, Boydie. You didn't seem too impressed with that. Why was that?
Jonathon, I'm just, I kind of touched on it yesterday. My whole thing, and listen, I might be sitting here becoming a dinosaur, but I would always ask the question. Maybe because I played on him. The thing I would always say as a Rangers manager, would Walter Smith have done that? The answer would be no. I know it's changed. I get the fact that teams go around pitches and they want applauded off and things like that. But for me, get up the tunnel, get on to the next week and see where that takes you. Listen, it's been a difficult period for Rangers. I think the Rangers fans, and rightly so, they want to get a manager that they can feel behind, they can trust to make decisions and get their team back winning again. And I totally get it. But for me, I'm always, and as I said, I might be old school in this, but as a manager, and by the way, even the players, just get yourself up the tunnel. The biggest, everybody say, at least show respect to the fans and appreciate what they do for you and everything. The biggest respect and appreciation you can show to them is putting in effort every single Saturday to win games of football that they can be home and be proud of their team. You do that, they'll be happy. You don't need to be up clapping. You don't need to be up celebrating. You don't need to go around the pitch and things, because we've seen it before, Roger. When you win games of football, it's fine. When you don't, and you're still going around the pitch, it's a empty stadium, there's a few people hurling abuse at you. You can't have it both ways. And that's my point. Just get yourself up the tunnel.
Well, 6 weeks to Christmas and the Grinch has appeared already, Jonathon. What is the matter with you? What is the matter? Who cares? So, if Danny Rohl wants to go and applaud the fans, let him go. I was at Celtic Park yesterday. The Celtic team beat Kilmarnock in a bog standard league game. And they round and applauded the fans. They went right the way around. That's what
Celtic do.
That's the way things.
When they drop points or they get beat at Celtic Park, they're still going and everybody's hurling abuse at them.
Listen, Martin O'Neill was asked why he didn't go out yesterday. If yesterday was his last game, Robert Grieve asked him after the game, why didn't you go out and applaud? You just went down the tunnel. And he said, in his day, like you say about Walter Smith, that's what people did. They finished the game, they shook hands with the fourth official and the other manager, and they went down the tunnel. But even Martin acknowledged, times have moved on. Players and younger managers want to have this moment with the fans after the game. The fans, certainly the Rangers fans who are involved.
I'll tell you what then. So
roar yesterday seemed happy.
If you're going to do it when you're winning, are you still going to do it when you're getting beaten?
Well, listen, if they want to do it, let them do it.
So what are you going to do? Jump up and down? So if you lose a game, you're going to jump up and down?
Doesn't bother me in the slightest.
I can't wait to see Robert Grieve coming in the office and celebrating in front of you for giving him a day off. That'll be good, Wow.
No days off.
He'd actually have to come into the office for that.
That's true. That's true.
He was a Celtic pal with me, hard-working man.
A very hard-working man.
Now, listen, look, I know what you're saying, Roger. I understand what you're saying, but for me, it's just a no-go. I can't. It does my head in because, listen, I'm not saying it because it's that. And I'll always compare every single Rangers manager, and it's probably wrong. It's wrong of me to compare them to Walter Smith because there will never be another Walter Smith. But the question I would always say or ask myself would be, would Walter do that? And if the answer's no, then I have to say it's the wrong thing to do.
Even said the same yesterday. He was comparing with Walter and even get back to Willie Waddle. Is it I think Walter Smith or Willie Waddle would have done? And obviously the answer was no. But I think times have moved on. If managers want to do it, it was not a kind of Ronnie Dyler thing for a while. The Ronnie roar. Yeah. Now there's a roll.
That went down well as well, didn't it?
I mean, do you think Danny Rohl, he'll have obviously seen the way Russell Martin was received during his tenure, and maybe Danny Rohl's kind of seen a window of opportunity.
No,
Does he need to take it?
Russell Martin went round the pitch as well and tried to clap the fans. And this is my point. When you're winning games of football, it's totally fine. When you don't, then all of a sudden the pressure comes on, you're still trying to do it and you're getting criticised. You're not going to change my opinion here. I just feel as if it's the wrong thing to do. Anyway, I do wonder
as well, if there's a continent. Jurgen Klopp did it. Daniel Farke's big doing it down south. Yeah. It's maybe a kind of continental thing as well.
Well, Daniel Farke will not be doing it much right now either.
Well, you might be right there. Danny Rohl's done a lot of things that Russell Martin didn't do. Small things like wearing the suit, wearing the shoes, helping the supporters with the tifo, having that bond with the tifo, winning a league game, things like that. So his PR so far has been quite good in the eyes of the Rangers fans, and it's maybe a smart move by Danny Rohl to get them on side, so that if there is a slip further down the line, it buys him a little bit more goodwill than Russell Martin ever had.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Rangers drop points somewhere down the line. They'll cut him some slack because he's jumped in front of them celebrating. Right, I'm going to celebrate in the golf course.
Dear. Does Sammy wear 2 gloves on the golf course or just one?
He still wore 2 gloves when he was playing. He might have saved some shots.
Brutal. Just very quickly, Stephen Pressley. He's a man just struggling to get fans on side at the moment. Fearing for him a bit?
No.
Listen, you look at Dundee, came up a couple of seasons ago, top 6 last year, wasn't great. You then look at them this year. There are going to be some major bumps in the road for Dundee, but they're in and around that bottom of the table where, I mean, you go back a couple of weeks ago, if they'd have won that game at Falkirk, by the way, when they had a penalty to do that,
yeah,
they would have been third. So, it is, the lines, it's thin lines, but there is no doubt when you look at the performance against Celtic, I felt as if, for all the plaudits they got for that, yesterday it was the total opposite. You had people throwing their bodies in front of the ball. You had people closing down. They worked as a team. They got bodies forward. They defended their own box. They attacked the ball in the opposition's box. I didn't see that yesterday, Jonathan. But again, you look at Stephen Pressley. I don't think he's a man who is going to be flustered with that. I think he tells the truth in his interviews. A lot of people don't like it, but I think he's a man's man. He'll just tell you how it is. I mean, I know that he maybe, a lot of the Dundee fans will look at it and say, well, when he came in at first, we're never going to win trophies. He's not really lying. It's not really what fans want to hear. No. But I think he needs to set. The players need to understand that for them to get results, they're going to have to be their best every single week. They weren't at that yesterday. It finished 3, could quite easily have been a lot more in the second half. And I will touch on that as well. VAR at Dens yesterday got the decision correct. Also, at St Mirren on Saturday night got the decision correct. Contrary to what was going on and what was being said elsewhere, the decisions, they all reached the correct decisions.
There we go. I was going to ask about that, but that sounds like a pretty definitive opinion there.
Yeah, I can fast forward, knowing fine well that I'm on the tee in 25 minutes. It's going to take me 20 minutes to get there. So I'm no warm-up, so that's me getting an excuse in already.
Boydie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, Sammy, we're asking for him.
I will do.
We might see you next week. It might be Sammy, who knows?
We might appear later on FaceTime for an updated version of this, only if I win. Bye.
Good luck.
Looking forward to your celebrations, Boydie.
Right in front of the clubhouse. Goodbye.